Welcome, everybody, to Retire.Army, where we talk about all things retirement and transition out of the military to all branches of the service, all across the world, all ranks, everybody included. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit different episode. It's going to be me and my new co-host, Victor De La Flor. He's joining me today. And I just want to let everybody know that there will be timestamps in the video. If you're watching this on video, if you're just listening on audio, you may have timestamps, you may not. And you can also catch us on Reads Across America radio. We'll be on Wednesday evenings at 11 p.m. You can get it on iHeartRadio and a couple other places. So be sure to check us out there and tune in. And thank you for your support. You are the sponsors of our show, supporting us by watching, by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, sharing with your friends, and partaking with us on this journey. So without further ado, let me bring on Victor and let him give you a little bit of background about himself and what we're doing together.
All right. Hey, well, good to see you again, man. Name's Victor De La Flor. I'm a recently retired U.S. Marine Corps Chief Warrant Officer 3, and currently trying to find my purpose in life right now. Been retired for about a month, and it's going well. Just kind of trying to figure things out, doing a whole lot of reading, a whole lot of writing, trying to do things that I have not had the chance to do while I was in the service. But you always have to find a purpose. So I think that's where I am in life right now.
Yeah, and that's a great transition point. Of course, everybody probably know me if you've seen the show. If you haven't, I'm also a retired CW3 out of the Army, not the Marines. 25 years of service, and this has been my kind of passion project for the last year or so, year and a half. And I'm glad to have you aboard, Victor, with me as my
Thank you.
co-host. It's really good to have somebody else to talk to besides myself. Uh,
That's a good
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean, I have my guests, right? But it's
Yeah,
nice to have somebody to tag team. It's
yeah,
tag team is always
absolutely.
better in the wrestling ring than solo. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
but yeah, let's dig into purpose. And I do agree with you. I've been out about 2 years now, and finding purpose has been difficult. But for me, the kind of hack for it was really just stepping away from the workforce, stepping away from the regular societal kind of norms and the things that people value as success, like a good paycheck, a nice car, a big house, like all those different things, kind of putting that off to the side and really just focusing internally on me. And I don't know how you've been dealing with it, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I was so ramped up for the whole retirement thing, right? I had all these big dreams, right? As I'm going through the whole retirement process, like, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to have time to do this. And in reality, it's like once you hit that point where it becomes a reality, probably about a week or two after you get out, right? After you retire, and you see everybody taking off to work. My wife goes to work every morning, and it's kind of like, what do I do with my hands now? Like, what do I do? So that's kind of like what I've been working through right now, trying to figure out what my next step in the process is. What's my next step in life? It's cool to have time off. I'm not saying that. It's cool. Like when I'm in the service and I took leave, that's cool. But I always knew that I was going to go back to a job, right? I knew that I had something waiting for me, a mission, a battle rhythm, something like that. Now it's like, Monday comes. I normally I'd be putting on my camis around 6:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, after PT, and it's like, okay, well, no longer need camis. What do I do? Throw on some shorts, go outside the backyard, and go read for about an hour. Have a coffee or something, and just kind of figure things out from there. So I think wholeheartedly that it is super important to find a purpose, whether that be, a kind of a rhythm, right, to your day, because that kind of keeps you from going down like a mental, I don't know what to call mental like dump, right? Down a black hole, right? It kind of keeps you from that. And I think that's what hits a lot of like veterans, retirees once they get out, at least a lot of that I've talked to, was they don't have a purpose. They don't have that rhythm. They don't have that camaraderie anymore. And they just don't know what to do with their time. And it can lead to a very dangerous place, I think. So it's very important to fill your time with something constructive.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a quite a similar thing in the mornings, and again, like I said, I've been doing it for about 2 years. Not that I haven't been looking for a job, not that I haven't been trying to get re-engaged
Right.
into society, but it's uh, like the thing that you may or may not have mentioned on your channel, and of course in the
Mhm.
interview that we did
Yeah.
about that first kind of rejection letter that you get from a job that you're applying for, and it's soul
Yeah.
crushing, right? Because you're
It
like, I've
is.
been doing 20
It
years plus, I've got all this experience, and like,
right.
how am I not qualified for this job? So,
Yeah, it is soul crushing, man. I'll be honest. It's like you like I served for 20 years, right? 2 decades. You did what, 25, right? Um,
25.
you would think that after all this time that people would be like seeking you out, right? I need this guy. He knows what he's doing. That's not the case. Like nobody's going to come and do the work for you. You have to do it for yourself. And that was like a kind of hard lesson. Like I knew it was going to happen. Like I knew I had to advocate for myself and educate myself and kind of seek these jobs out. But it was a little bit tougher than I thought it would be. I mean, I've only been out for a month, you know, but in that time, it kind of opened my eyes to all that. Like nobody's really going to come seek you out, man, unless you had something already lined up while you were still in, nobody's really going to come seek you out. You're still going to have to do the interview process. You are like any other civilian out there. And you just happen to have 20 years of experience, you know, but, it's kind of like, hey, get in line, John or Chuck or whatever. You're the same as everybody else now. So, yeah, it is soul crushing, but it is the reality of things, man. You just have to set yourself up for success because nobody else is going to do it for you.
yeah, those guide rails kind of go away once you leave the military. Because in the military, at least like, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, like I'm gonna get promoted. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
into this next assignment. I'm gonna set myself up
Yeah.
for different things in my career. And when you get out, it's like the guardrails are gone, and you're kind of it's like flying an airplane, but in the clouds, and you don't know how to
Mhm.
fly an airplane in the
Yeah.
clouds. Like there's a certain way you fly without clouds, and then there's a
Yeah.
certain way you fly when you hit clouds, right? And it's
Right.
basically flying blind, but with instrumentation. So that's what
Right.
it kind
Right.
of feels like to me. I really I do kind of a similar kind of morning routine thing where I do a lot of reading. And one thing that I've used to sort of find my purpose, and I've been doing it before I got out even, there's a book that I read. It's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. I think
Mhm.
the author is O.G. Mandino. And
Mhm.
basically it's kind of like the Ten Commandments of sales, but from a biblical kind of standpoint story behind it.
Right.
And it just sets you up to do this like 30 days at a time per scroll. I don't want to give away the punchline of the book, but there's like 10 scrolls in the book, and each
Right.
scroll you sit with for 30 days, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. And you just kind of absorb that information. What that's actually doing is building the habit of reading, building the habit
Yeah.
of improvement and things of that nature. So,
Yeah. And that's an important thing, man. I don't recall reading a lot when I was in the service, right? Like just the required readings that are required of you, for the next promotion or to look good on your fitness reports or evaluations, right? Well, I read something off this commandant's reading list. I read something off this sergeant major's reading list, and you put that on your evals. Cool, this guy did it. Check in the box. He looks good for promotion. It was just that, and it wasn't until like the last couple of years before I actually got out that I started like actually thinking about, I need to like read for myself. I need to take time and actually explore things that I want to, not just, you know, self-help books or whatever they're called. It's just, things like, I don't know, that Tim Ferriss book I'm reading right now, The Tribe of Mentors. Probably not something that's on the commandant's reading list or anything like that, or any kind of military reading list, but it was something for myself that I wanted to explore. Being that what I don't have one particular mentor that I go through, so let me just crack open this book and find out what every one of these mentors have to say about it. So
yep.
it's something that you have to like delve into and find out for yourself, but it is definitely good to have your own personal time to read, crack open a book and actually do your own reading. Not something I've ever done in the past until recent. And I tell you, it's worked out well. It's like it opens your mind. It definitely gets you reading. Definitely gets you writing things down. It expands your thought process. It's awesome. It's awesome. I recommend it to anybody out there.
Yeah, and I just want to throw this out there real quick too and
Yeah,
see what you think about it. As
sure.
far as purpose is concerned, how do you define purpose? I mean, for me, it's like having something that basically pulls me in a direction that's guiding my path and guiding my life. And I don't necessarily know where and how it's going to turn out and play out, but for me, that's kind of the definition of purpose. Do you have a specific definition of purpose or anything that you would point to as a definition?
Yeah, so I think not a specific definition, but I can kind of describe it. A purpose is like a magnetic pull towards something, right? You want to do something to either explore it or better yourself, or something to get you involved in something outside of just sitting down and watching Netflix or something, right? It has to have some kind of passion behind it, right? For me, when I was in, my purpose was to, for one, lead Marines, to mentor Marines, to basically work for them. They don't just work for me, I work for them. And that kind of got me out of bed every morning. It made me feel good about myself, knowing that I was making a difference. That I think is probably the underlying definition of purpose for me. Finding what drives you and going for towards that thing. And it's tough to find that. It really is. But I think if you think back and say, hey, look, if I was not getting paid for this, would I still do it? And that's where your passion lies. I think that's where a purpose, like a direction for a purpose lies. And like for instance, like doing like the YouTube channel that I do, nobody pays me for that. I'm not asking anybody for any money. I don't have any sponsors or anything. It's simply a thing that I enjoy doing, and I figure that that is a piece of my purpose. Just giving out leadership information or things that I've encountered over the last 20 years as a Marine. Uh, yeah. I guess that's the best way to describe it for me, man. It's just the underlying purpose, what drives you, what gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that it's the thing that you're not getting paid for that you still
Yeah,
do and you still love to do regardless
absolutely.
of no paycheck. Same with this, right? It's nobody's
Hmm.
paying us money to do any of this. And funny enough, it's actually a very heavy expense when it comes to, you start to buy the cameras and the lights and the
It can
microphones. And
be.
we talked about this off camera, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's you have to be a little bit crazy and also very passionate to do something, to take on something like this
Oh yeah.
and try to do it as professional as possible. So yeah,
Oh yeah. I mean, could it lead to something in the future? Absolutely. But for right now, it's a passion project. It's something that we want to do. It's something that drives us. So it doesn't feel like work. It's fun.
no, I totally enjoy it. That's why I keep
Yeah.
doing it. It's after I did the first 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, okay, I get it. I'm hooked now.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Along those lines of purpose,
Yeah.
let me ask you as far as moving in a direction or moving towards something that you're passionate about.
Hmm.
Um, what kind of educational like boundaries do you set up for that? Because I think with purpose and with going towards a goal and going towards a passion project or building a passion or finding a passion, one of
Yeah.
however you want to phrase it,
Hmm.
there always has to be this kind of learning cycle in there. So let me break it in two parts.
Hmm.
Um, what is a way that you're using education or learning to fuel your passion? And
Hmm.
then where is the cutoff point where it's just too much, where you're just taking in information and not actually taking action?
All right. So I will say that as far as the education piece, I know that I need to set myself up for some kind of success. If I want to do A, I need to have A1, A2, A3 set up in place in order to do my A, right? Whether that be the next career, or learn how to be a better artist or a better YouTuber or whatever it might be. So I need to educate myself on these things. Uh, where it becomes overwhelming is when when the ADD kicks in, right? And it's like I'm no longer on track anymore. That's where my notebook comes in place. I write down notes, milestones of where I need to be at what point in time, what goals I need to hit. And if I'm way outside of those lateral limits, man, I got to get back on track. I'll kind of reevaluate myself at the end of the week and just say, hey, look, I'm over here. I'm supposed to be doing this certificate on this thing, or working on my project management certificate, but I'm over here looking up videos about cats playing with yarn, way outside of my lateral limits, right? So I need to come back to point A and actually start going that way. And I get sidetracked a lot. So that's been something that it's been an uphill battle for me, but I've learned how to manage that, I think, effectively. I don't think I would have gotten where I am in the military or even now if I didn't learn how to work with that. You know, nobody really taught me that. It's always like, hey, look, if you're not doing well, you get counseled, right?
Yep.
Thankfully enough, I never got really counseled on stuff like that because I learned how to manage it early on. Like, hey, I don't want to mess up here or there, so I gotta stay on the straight and narrow. But yeah, I mean, it's educating yourself on whatever your purpose is, on whatever you want to do. That is key, man, because nobody else is going to do it for you. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the shiny red squirrels are always out there.
always, man, always. I mean, even right now, I'm talking to you, and I'm like, I'm facing a window, but I'm seeing birds, and I'm like, you know, yeah, it's a real thing, and I think a lot of people deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
It's especially now with like social media and stuff. It's the constant scroll and just the psychology behind like Instagram and TikTok, where it's like the scene changes every 3 seconds to keep
Yep.
your attention because our attention spans are so low right now. It's like they have to change every 3 seconds. And it's like you cannot focus on something for longer than 3 seconds. It's hard to, at least. I can see it with my kids. I notice it with myself. So it is tough. It's tough to get over that hurdle.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself taking a lot of long breaks. Long breaks meaning putting the phone down, turning it off, putting it off to the side,
Yeah, yeah, you
taking a
got to.
walk outside, like in nature or whatever, or walk the dog, like whatever I need to do to get away from the phone.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's hard, right? Because sometimes you're walking the dog, you're doing something, and how easy is it? It's set up to work without us even thinking. You feel like that ghost text, or your hand automatically goes down to your pocket, and you're like, "Oh, let me just check to see what time it is." Bam. Okay, next thing, Facebook, Instagram. It's just so easy to open up that world. That's a lot of times I come home and I just want to throw my phone across the room and be like, "Hey, look, I just need to take a break, man. I need to get rid of this for right now because and it affects your vision too. My vision is terrible now,
yeah,
So yeah,
the reading
yeah,
glasses.
yeah, exactly. I'm not wearing it right now, but I look like an 80-year-old man. Just it sits right here at the bottom. Yeah, it's not good, not good.
Are there any boundaries or limits you set for yourself on like social media or just phone time, screen time in general?
Yeah, so I will say that it started off with me limiting my kids on 2 hours a day of screen time when they get
Mhm.
home, especially during the week, right? During the weekend, I give them a little bit more. Screen time includes, Nintendo, whatever, the little Nintendo video games or the TV screen or their phone, right? Um, After putting those limitations on them, I figured I need to set the example myself and, limit my screen time. So I still find myself using the phone or social media or like watching TV every so often, but then I'll think about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not setting a good example. What kind of a father am I looking like if I'm putting these restrictions on these kids and I'm not doing it myself? So that's kind of the driving force for me. So during the week I try to keep it just to emails, business, but then I find myself going a little overboard sometimes. That's when I'll just kind of leave the phone in the room. Dinner time, no phones on the table, no phones in the kitchen. That stays in the room. If you're scared about missing a call or a text, hey, put your volume up high, and hopefully you hear it from across the room. But things can wait, and that was like a learned process for me. Things can wait. People can leave voicemails. That's what it's there for. If somebody texts you, if the text is that urgent, they'll give you a call. They have your number. That's how they test you. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just leaving the phone in the room, I think. I've been like my wife leaves the phone in another room, when she goes to sleep.
Yep.
Uh, and that's been a practice for her. But for me, it's just kind of I use the Calm app at night, and I like to flip through the phone. If I have a thought in middle of the night, I'll either turn on the phone and put it in my notes app, or write it down on a piece of paper. So the phone kind of stays in the room with me. My wife is a little bit different. She doesn't use social media or anything, so I'm trying to get to that level, but it's kind of hard to when you run things online, right? Like, projects and businesses and things like that. Uh,
That's right.
but yeah, I think keeping away for so much. Have you, well, by in getting to that, have you seen the dummy phone like that? It's just a black block that it looks like a phone, but it
Hmm.
doesn't do anything. It's just like a piece of plastic. It kind of gives you the feeling of having a phone in your pocket, so you don't lose out on that feeling. It's like $30. It's I saw it online. I saw it online. People actually buy this stuff. It has like reviews, but it's
Yeah.
just a piece of plastic. If you feel like you have that overload of the phone and you still need that feeling of a phone in your pocket, they sell that. It's amazing
It's like a,
how far it's gotten.
it's like a mocktail.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it blows my mind. I was like, who buys this? And sure enough, it has thousands of reviews. I'm like, holy crap, man.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's insane.
it's amazing, man.
Yeah, I mean that's you got to do what you got to do, and I guess it's one of the ways to do it. And I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do anything, but that does lead me to segue into another piece that I wanted to talk about before we hop off in
Yeah.
about 20 minutes. And so, and I wanted to ask about since it is September 2023 when we're recording this, it is
Yeah.
the Mental Health Awareness Month, and I did want to touch on that before we hop off the call, but
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned with the phone, the screen time, and then as well as coming off of active duty recently. Like again, I've been off for 2 years, but you've been
Mhm.
off just recently for about a month.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any mental or psychological changes between the time that you got off active duty and to now?
I have to be honest. It has to do with the purpose thing, right? Uh, so just seeing, I live in like a military community, so seeing folks leave for work in the morning, as I'm walking my dog, my neighbors are, saying bye. They're in their, some of them are their uniforms. My wife goes to work in the morning, and it's like, okay, everybody has a purpose. What about me? And that kind of hit me hard, probably about 2 weeks in. It's like, what? I got nothing going on right now. I can read all day, I can write all day, I can, make YouTube videos all day, but it doesn't feel, it doesn't complete me, right? It didn't feel like it completed me. Um, but yeah, that kind of it started dwindling down into like a black hole per se, and I didn't like it, and I identified it real quick, you know, and I reached out to a friend of mine who was a recently retired Marine, and he retired a month before I did, well, yeah, last month, and I just asked him, I'm like, hey man, do you still get the feeling of like the fear of missing out, that feeling of that you're missing out on things? And I just needed somebody to talk to, really. That's what it was. Um, and I had him like I talked to him so often because he worked right across the hall from me that I just kind of reached out to him. He moved over to Utah, and he's like, "Yeah, I feel it every day, and it's a real thing, dude. I didn't know I was gonna feel like this." And we just kind of connected on that level. And I'd say, man, if that's the feeling, like whether you're a retiree or just somebody who got out after 4 years, you got to reach out to somebody, man, because that feeling of missing the camaraderie, you know, missing the, that connection is a real thing, and it hits folks really hard. And I've seen it where it really it has ended people's lives, unfortunately. Friends of mine who who felt like they missed out, on that camaraderie. And no, they feared, or I don't know if they feared. They didn't reach out to anybody. So, you know, it's a real thing. It sucks, but it's a real thing. And I think just doing, was it that 22 a day, 22 push-ups a day is not enough, man. You got to pick up the phone and call somebody. Wearing a little bracelet that says 22 a day or whatever till Valhalla, that's not enough, man. You got to pick up the phone and call somebody, or just, pat them on the back and say, hey, I'm here if you need something, because that feeling of camaraderie is strong, and I think we all need it every so often.
Yeah, funny enough, that's what I use the majority of like social media for. I mean, of course, I post things, but I do
Mhm.
spend a lot of time there just keeping in touch with people that I've served with or,
Yeah.
even people that I grew up with.
Yeah.
because you can sometimes you can pick up on those little telltale signs and sometimes not. But yeah, I agree. It's the first year for me was not so super bad. The second year was a little bit worse because of the fact that I had already spent a year grinding and trying to put in resumes
Yeah.
and trying to figure out, my life that was going to be how it was going to work out with me moving out of the country and all these different things. And the second year was really crazy because it was like me kind of finalizing, closing doors, closing chapters on things, selling the house, like those kind of things. And those are milestones and they're great and they're good things to hit. But at the same time, it's really just this kind of ephemeral kind of burning the
Mhm.
list of things that you no longer need in your life and you write it down, put it in a little plate and light it on fire or whatever. Some people
Right.
do that kind of thing. It was very ephemeral for me the last year, especially the last 6 months before I got here where I am now. It was really pushing through it, staying in
Hmm.
touch with people. Luckily, I have, the podcast where I get to actually talk to other veterans quite often and spend a lot of time doing that. But I think for me, that's the thing that's kind of the glue that's kind of held it all together is really just being able to have the small, close-knit community of people still, even though you're not part of like the bigger Marine Corps or the bigger Army or the bigger Navy or Air Force or Space Force, but
Right.
to still keep a close knit community of like minded individuals around. Because that's what I found through the
Hmm.
podcast as well. Is like there's a lot of things that come up on the podcast that people talk about with me that they've been holding inside for quite a long time. And it just happens to come out in the conversation because of the questions and how we're talking. And they get to the
Yeah.
point where they get comfortable. And then
Hmm.
at some point, once in a while, some point it just rushes out and you just get this rush of emotions from people. And those are the kind of things that people like hold inside of them because, we're all military. We all want to be strong and stand proud and stand tall with our shoulders back. But
Yeah.
there's another side of the coin. There's another part of the equation that you have to factor in as well. And yeah, if anybody's out there and anybody needs anything, needs to talk, needs to reach out, like you can certainly reach out to Victor or I, uh, probably anytime, and we'll respond really
Yeah.
quickly. Otherwise, there's many different, you know, helplines out there. There's many different veteran organizations out there. We'll probably list a few down in the show notes, but
Yeah.
definitely reach out to somebody if you are feeling even just a small slight nudge in that direction, because you don't want it to turn into the downward spiral. That's definitely not where you want it to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we're all in this fight together. So, I mean, there's there's retirees and veterans that I've talked to who similar to you, right? When you talk to folks in your podcast, uh, they don't share all the information with their families because their families probably wouldn't get it, right? At least that's something that's been told to me before. Like I've not shared this information with my family because they wouldn't get it, you know. And I'm like, all right, well, they shared it with me. And I'm like, all right, well, I get it, right? They'd rather be there and share it with some like another veteran, another, service member. So that's a little tough. That's when families don't really see the inner workings of what's going on with the veteran, right? So that's why there's these veteran groups that exist. I mean, here in Southern California, they have a lot of veterans groups, right? Like Veterans Beer Club or, kind of networking events, but also ways to kind of be around like-minded folks, right? Because nobody's going to get like veteran humor like a veteran does, right? We've got
Right.
some twisted, messed up, dark humor, and things make me laugh that other people. I talk to my civilian friends, and they're like, "Dude, what the heck is wrong with you?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. This is hilarious to me. Um, but it's you won't get that. A lot of times, you won't get it with civilian folks, civilian friends. So you have to surround yourself with like-minded people, at least one or two, right? At least that's been my experience. But it's you just have to go out there and seek it, man. You can't just be living in your head, alone in a foxhole or a fighting hole. You got to go out and seek it, man. I'm a member of these Facebook groups. I'm sure that you are a member of several Facebook groups too, like veterans Facebook groups.
Yep.
And how, yeah, it is insane how often I see like, hey, these texts or these Facebook posts on,
Mhm.
today's a day or, I'm feeling down, guys. And I'm like, damn, immediately, you got to reach out. Like, hey, dude, it's gonna be all right. I'm here if you want to talk, and it's fine. Let folks talk. You just got to be the ear. It's fine. If you have the time, if you have the ability to listen to your fellow service member, your fellow veteran, and see what they got to say, it could save their day. To be honest. So yeah, it's you just have to seek these things out, man. Nobody's just going to do it for you, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually the number one thing you could actually do is just listen to somebody else. And it's probably the least expensive thing you could do as well, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. I mean, no matter the ranks, man. I've talked to folks who are like just got out after 4 years. I've talked to folks who were like E9s, uh, who had issues, and nobody really opens up like that unless it's like to another veteran.
Yeah.
I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I'm not a psychologist, but it's just good to talk to somebody who's like-minded. You know, I mean, I'm not going to go and share everybody's information either. So it's like, hey, look, dude, it's just me and you, whatever.
Right.
How many times have I been in uniform in my office and I've literally taken off my ranks and put them on my desk. I'm like, all right, dude, it's, with, E4 Corporal so-and-so or E3, whatever. All right, it's just you and Vic. Let's talk, dude. You know, and things open up. When I take the ranks off and I'm like, okay, it's no longer Chief Warrant Officer so and so. Now it's just Vic. Level with me. What's going on? And it's amazing how people open up. And it's great to see that. It's just it brings me joy when somebody can open up and actually share that stuff.
Yeah. And it's really, really super, super easy to do. It's just a matter of literally just listening, not talking. A lot of times people just need to talk. And that's
Hmm.
veterans need to talk to other veterans or
Absolutely.
military members need to talk to other military members. That's where they find their safe space where they can actually talk about things. And that's been my
Absolutely.
experience as well. I've done the same and taken off the rank physically, put it on the table,
Yeah.
or flung it across the room, depending,
And
depending on,
surprisingly, it
yeah,
works.
yeah,
Surprisingly, it works. It's like, wait, let's both be privates right now, and let's talk.
yeah,
And it's worked on many occasions. Whether or not it's saved a life, I don't know because it's never gotten to that point with some of my Marines that I've worked with. But I do feel like a pressure off their chest, off their shoulders, just relieved. Just come off after they talk. Um,
yeah,
Maybe they're just putting on the act because I'm their senior leader or whatever. But it's like, hey, look, I just need to hear your story, man. I got it. You pay 28% on this car, and you're married to a chick with 5 kids. Life is rough right now, but what can we do to help you out, man? What can we do
yeah,
to alleviate these stressors in your life? Here's this Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. If you need a loan, or if you need a grant, or if you need something, there's ways to get there's ways to get information. There's ways to get, financial assistance. You're not alone.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Same on the Army side, Army emergency relief and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Well, hey, Vic, I
Yeah.
want to wrap it. So we've got everything kind of covered and wrapped up. And for all of you out there, like, thank you very much for listening. It's again, like we said, it's one of the key things you can do to help other service members, other military members, other veterans, and you're helping yourself and you're helping us at the same time by listening in and partaking in these discussions and these talks that we're having. So just want to give a quick shout out to Read Across America, where we will be having the radio show on Wednesday evenings at 11 p.m. And also to let you know that you can find us everywhere on the internet, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you consume content. Hopefully, this is quality content that's good for you and not taking you down the depths of political scandals and things of that nature, because that's what we definitely don't want to do. So without anything else, is there anything else you want to tack on at the end here, or
No, I'd say, if you need somebody, reach out, man. I'll throw my email out there if that's okay. It's thegreenlogbook@gmail.com. That's my YouTube channel, The Green Logbook. And if anybody needs anything, I'm open to, talking, answering questions, or at least having somebody on the YouTube channel to share their story as well. So don't be afraid to reach out if you need something.
Absolutely. And mine is john.a.mcconnell at gmail.com. I don't have a fancy one. I did it on purpose. You can reach out to me there. You can reach out to me on the internet anywhere. It's at Chief McConnell. You can find me everywhere. So by all means, I respond to every message I get. Cool, man. Well, it was great catching up
All
with
right.
you,
Hey,
and
you too.
we'll see you again very, very soon. And thank you very much for everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you later.